Doom v. Vamos v. Vamos Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well, particularly since we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X-Men number 181, Tokyo Story. And we are back with just Romita Jr. and Green on art. Alright, so the X-Men have returned from the Secret Wars, and they find themselves dropped over Japan with a giant dragon with them. Well, whilst on Battleworld, Lockheed befriended a lady dragon who came to Earth with them, and she has grown to an enormous size and has began to rampage over Tokyo. The X-Men try to stop her, and they get the help of Sunfire to do so as well. Ultimately, Lockheed talks the dragon down, and the dragon disappears. Well, the Lady Dragon wasn't attacking Tokyo, but hoping to build a nest on Mount Fuji for her and for Lockheed, but our Space Dragon friend-zoned her instead. We are left with some political rumblings at the end of this issue, as Senator Kelly seems to be introducing a bill entitled the Mutant Affairs Control Act. Alright, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I touched on this in the last podcast about like the sort of confusion from Secret Wars, and I know that some of that is intentional. But you know, I mentioned that I have knowledge of the major beats of Secret Wars, but I haven't. It's been a while, or I've never read through cover to cover all 12 issues. I don't remember the little green dragon at all, so I have to go back and like find that little green dragon. So. You know, if I kind of separate myself from the confusion, which, granted, at this time, the confusion would have been on purpose, right? They're teasing things, right? Spider-Man's black costume, She-Hulk with the Fantastic Four, the Thing's not around, the X-Men getting dumped into Japan here, I guess, right? Things like that. So that's all, pretty interesting. I like the cover. I think it's a fun little switch up with the corner box art. And having the X-Men kind of hanging out on top of the logo. I think that looks really cool. And I like the art overall in this issue. I enjoy seeing Sunfire again and what's going on there. We're getting leaning a little bit more into the political stuff with the, with the actual act kind of being on display here on that final page. And we also get that view of Storm carrying all the X-Men that I mentioned on. I don't have the page number in front of me. I was trying to be slick and use Marvel Unlimited on my screen, and then I realized I don't get the page number, so it kind of throws me off. It's here, page 8 in the book, but
it's 128 in the volume.
There you go. So that seems like an image that I've seen multiple times before. I think it might even be the cover for. One of the Fall of the Mutants. It is. That's what I'm reminded of. It's this. So okay. The Fall of the Mutants trade, which I'm sure is a cover to one of the X-Men issues around that time in the 240s or something like that. So yeah, this is an image of multiple times. I like Professor X out in the field. I think that's interesting. This might be the only era that we really get this, right? There's been times where he's been in a fight or in a battle or things like that, but like him like as just like literally part of the team and not like happen to be there type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of think of what are the major times I've seen him in battle? Like he goes up against Magneto in Fatal Attractions, but that's, it's sort of like a one fight type of thing for a very specific purpose. He's involved in the Avengers on the Bloodlines storyline. Obviously, he gets worked into, various things later, like, the Avengers versus X-Men. He's got a part to play there, but he's sort of like a secret weapon, right? He's not just like part of the team, so to speak. And I'm hard pressed to find other times where Professor X is just part of the team out there in the field. And this issue and what some things that we'll see later is a welcome change. It's kind of interesting. I like this team. What are your thoughts?
He's got a very striking costume, doesn't he? With a bright yellow with a black X going across it. I can't think of many heroes who have a bright yellow costume. Hellcat comes to mind, but no one else at the moment. Maybe something will come to me later. Sentry,
Sentry's
okay.
kind of yellow.
But Sentry's later. He's early 2000s, right? So
Oh yeah, much later.
he wasn't confined to the four color, the whole reasoning behind the costumes. You want blue, red, yellow as your heroes, because those are your primary colors. The ink is cheaper, and hence the villains always end up being green and purple, right? But then again, that still makes sense for the Sentry because he was created to be like a Silver Age character who disappeared. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can't really think of a lot of other yellow costume characters. Oops. Let's see. I thought this story was fun. It's inconsequential, right? But still, I'm down with the dragons. I like having some kaiju tear up Tokyo. That's always fun. As far as I know, there's nothing in this that really gets built upon, with the exception of the Senator Kelly stuff at the very end, of course. I'm
sorry. And the first appearance of Amiko.
Amiko.
So she's a recurring character. The little girl that Wolverine rescues in the wreckage. I forgot to mention her.
Right, yeah. I wasn't sure where we were going with that, to be honest. I did not remember if she continued or not.
So I don't know how long it takes for them to revisit this character, but like in the 90s when Wolverine goes back to Japan and visits Yukio and things like that, like she's like a teenage girl, like she's like his daughter. Yeah, she's been in various books since then. Not a hugely popular character or hugely but enough that I knew who she was, right? When I was like, oh, this is the first time he's interacted with her. So.
Okay. All right, so yeah, no, that's good to know, because I did have that thought of he's making a big promise here, right? He's promising he's going to raise this girl, but I didn't remember that actually happening. So, all right, good to know. I think we've talked about how the Secret Wars, we just get jumped into the very end and the characters coming back. And things have changed for a lot of characters, right? Spider-Man's black costume's the big one. I think the thing with the X-Men is just this dragon. I think that's all it is. And I don't remember the role it played in Secret Wars because it has been a while since I've read it, but I think that's all we have here. And honestly, I don't even remember Lockheed being brought with the X-Men to the Secret Wars. It's a little weird that he's been separated from Kitty Pryde, but so far as I'm aware, this is the only big change that we have for the X-Men coming out of the Secret Wars.
Well, maybe that's where the dragon thing kind of throws me off, and maybe it's not in there because I didn't read the book cover to cover, but I flipped through it looking for that green dragon, and I didn't see it right away. They do. So Lockheed is there on the first page of Secret Wars. He's in the background. He's not colored properly. And interestingly enough, Professor X is in a wheelchair, even though he can walk here. So I
was going to say I have memories of that.
Yeah. So
it seems
definitely some continuity gaps. And if you read Secret Wars for the first time, you kind of have to like give it some grace, because like the first couple of pages are all like, I'm Wolverine, and this is the X-Men, and this is Professor X and Nightcrawler. Like everybody has to introduce themselves by name because, in theory, this was like people's first interaction with a lot of these characters.
Yeah, it's very Silver Agey in that aspect, right? But as you say, it makes sense. We're still selling to kids at this point, right? Comic books are disposable entertainment for children. So yeah, you have to give that introduction.
Well, that and the first company-wide crossover. Like, there were events, but not. I don't even know if there were, because they talk about it in the introduction as if this was the first time. Like DC has done team-ups, and they were definitely inspired by DC things. But even like something like Crisis on Infinite Earths hadn't happened yet. So this was like, a one-of-a-kind thing where you got the whole company, heroes and villains, to kind of be in one spot.
Yep. Let's see, where was I going from this? I guess I only have one other little thing with this issue that I thought was interesting. Let me go back to page 127 in the comic viewer here. I want some backstory on this, right? We get the dragon that shows up out of nowhere, and that's fine. It's fantasy, it's comics, and so forth. But I find it interesting that the people in Japan, it seems to be that the only reason they're worried about the dragon is because it can't be a dragon. This is the off season. What is that in reference to? Do we have anything more related to this? I want that backstory. Is there a season for dragon attacks? Otherwise, why put this in there?
The kids start off the book with like their
monster identification guides.
As if like they're. I mean, you can kind of take that as if that's just like a fantasy kind of playing around thing, but maybe the idea is there that that actually happens, and they're collecting things for real events.
So I want a book about this, right? I want a book about Japan constantly getting attacked. I mean, I guess that's the Godzilla films, right? But I think that'd be interesting. I checked Mike's Amazing World of Comics to see if there was anything that Marvel put out that looked like it could be a contender of covering this kind of story, but I didn't see anything that struck me. Anyway, give me that comic book. I want to read that. All right, Stojr, any other final thoughts?
I will just mention that I was flipping in the background here to find any big Amico stories. So if you're interested in anything that touch upon that, the Wolverine Blood Debt, it's around Wolverine 150. She's prominent in that storyline. There's definitely storylines before that, so you don't have to wait that long. But what I could reach while you were talking there and flip through, she's a little bit more grown up there. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Stojr. If you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review a big collected edition comic once a month. Dark Avengers is coming up this Sunday, plus these daily one-shots. So thank you guys again for watching, and we'll catch you next time.